Hey y'all, welcome to the podcast. Today we're going to talk about WordPress shortcodes with Michael's going to be presenting. I'm Jonathan Daggerhart, and today we got with us Michael. Michael, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good.
All right, and Dan, how is it going?
Hi, I'm Dan. How's it going?
Dan. And Brittany, how are you doing today?
Doing well.
All right, cool. Well, I'm just going to pass it right over to Michael. So, Michael, you're going to take us through shortcodes. Let's tell us about it. All right.
So let's take a look at some code here. I'll just share my entire screen. Why not? All right. I've got a fairly blank WordPress installation here, and feel free to stop me with any questions at any point. But what we're going to be looking at is shortcodes in WordPress. So this is a way that you can basically do this type of thing. You can put a shortcode into the middle of a post or a page, and it will call upon some functionality. So it's basically a way to get functionality inside of content areas. That's the way I like to think about it. Let's use something like this. Insert thing here, and thing is going to refer to some custom code that runs, and we'll define what this actually pulls in. That should work. And then we'll put here is some more blog content.
So the brackets are what make it a shortcode.
Yep, these little square brackets. Anytime you see that, you can be thinking shortcode. So let's go and view this page. Yep, and that did absolutely nothing because insert thing here is not a known shortcode. All right, so our job at this point is to just register with WordPress that this should be replaced by some code of our choosing. That makes sense so far?
Yeah, you're going to turn that into a real shortcode.
Yes. To do that, we use this WordPress function, add shortcode. And the first argument of our function is the tag we're trying to define. So insert thing here without the square brackets is what we are trying to define here. We can do like a closure, just a nameless anonymous function. And we'll start out that way, and then I'll show maybe some alternatives to what can go there. If we look at the documentation, it'll tell us what the arguments need to be. It's telling us to use something called @. So let's just do that, see what happens.
Which you can name whatever and it stands for attributes. I don't know why all the examples insist on shortening that, but
yeah. So let's just, I don't know, as a first pass, usually what I like to do is just dump out the parameter that's being passed in. Let's load. Oh, by the way, I'm putting this code in a MU plugin. So that's just, you add any file here into this MU plugin directory and WordPress will just load it automatically. So that's all I'm doing here. You'll notice that I got this array 0. So my var dump actually occurred way higher up on the page than I wanted. So we'll figure out what's going on with that. Notice if I look at the source for this, this is obviously not correct because it's happening way before any HTML is printed. So that brings us to like the first property of shortcodes is you're not supposed to echo out or generate any output from your shortcode. So what's happening is this is getting processed while WordPress is deciding what to do with the page. It's happening way in the load process. And so we can't echo anything out here. We actually just need to return. So we could really quick just return something like here is the thing. We'll figure out a better way to handle this in just a second. So there's my shortcode. I think it's aligned that way because of just the way the theme is built. So if I wrap that in a paragraph tag, that comes more in line. All right. So normally what I like to do is just use output buffering here. Just OB start, and then we can feel free to echo out anything we want, then return the contents of the output buffer. That should look a little better. Yep. All right.
So now you got the var dump to appear where you need it to appear.
Yeah. In fact, I think I installed the fancy var dump.
Hey, that's what I like to see.
Any questions so far? Is this making sense?
So it sounds like there is all of the default ones with WordPress already, and then there's this option to create your own type of shortcode where you can call your own function and do more logic in there, or you can use a bunch of default ones that come with WordPress. Is that right?
Exactly. And a lot of times, like if you have a certain theme or if you're using certain plugins, then those can define their own shortcodes as well.
I just found a snippet. I just wanted to Google it real quick, and I found a snippet where you can echo all the registered shortcodes. It might be helpful for developers to see all the registered shortcodes in the WordPress system.
Yeah.
Put it in the private chat if you want to.
I will do it. Although I can't go to the private chat right now because I'm sharing my screen. So we'll have to figure out how that works.
I'll just say it out loud, okay?
Yeah.
Triangle, question mark, PH. There's a global shortcode tags variable, and it's an array. So global shortcode tags, and then with an underscore.
That's easy. All right.
There you go.
And it's even got our little custom one in here.
Yeah.
That's cool. Thank you. And I assume that would also print out any that are registered by the plugin.
Yeah, I think by the time you run this, which should be very late, right? Because this function only runs when doing the shortcode replacement. So that in this scenario, that should show all registered shortcodes. Can we look at attributes?
Yeah, let's check that out. So what the attributes are doing is basically, I was going to bring up that other example, but we'll just type it in here. Let's say that I want to give this like a background color, and we want to say purple.
And you just made up BG color. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, I just made that up. So now we have this attribute background color purple. Let's figure out, sometimes we might want to, as the shortcode creator, we might want to filter out certain ones. The content creator might put some junk in here, and there's a way we can manage that.
Wait, you mean an attribute that's not registered?
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
So if we get there, we'll filter that out. But if not, I don't necessarily think it's hurting anything. So now our HTML can maybe look something like this. We just come here and say, here is the thing. There's my thing. I still haven't incorporated the background color. So let's have some code that sort of pulls that out. Background color equals, just as a crude first thing, we'll just say pull out, I believe this had a hyphen in it. Pull out the attribute called background color. Let's dump that out to make sure we're working with the right thing here. Yep, it's purple. So then again, this is pretty crude, but we could just say style equals background and put the background color in there, put a colon in there for the CSS, and there is our purple thing. All right, so does that make sense what's happening there?
Yeah. So attributes allow you to pass arguments into the function.
Yeah.
And generally to change the output, right? I don't know why you would do it without wanting to change the output in some way, but that's maybe a decent.
Yeah. A lot of times you'll put IDs in there, like this gallery, for example, pull that back up. It's useful to say, oh, the ID of the thing I want to display is 123. If you're editing a certain page and you want to put a certain gallery in place. A lot of times form plugins will use shortcodes. You create a form in the back end, the form's given an ID. You insert the form using a shortcode and you say ID equals 7 because that's the ID of the form you created.
Yeah. Sorry.
What's that?
I was just going to say that is a good real life example of how shortcodes are used in the wild, is like output from plugins.
Yeah.
Pretty much you're taking something that another piece of code outputs and you can put it anywhere arbitrarily inside of your own, the text editor, the editor.
Exactly. You do run into issues. You can't always count on the content editor always filling in every single attribute. You'll notice here, if I do this, I get some form of error. It says, whoops, undefined array key, BG color. So there's a lot of ways that you could address this. In WordPress world, usually what you'll see is things like using this shortcode @ function, which basically just helps to provide some defaults. Let's paste that code in and see what we're working with here. So let's call this @. We'll just override the @ variable. And I like to use the short array syntax. So we want to have BG color. And this is where we would provide like a default. So maybe our default could just be like a white background because that's the color of the page.
Yeah, as a front-end developer, I have to recommend that you do that as transparent, Michael.
That's true. Yeah. That's the whole point of shortcodes, right? We can't assume it's being run in this theme on this page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be, there's probably a word for that, portable, right? So your short code should be written so that you could throw it anywhere and it's still fine.
We'll bring back these attributes just to look at what happened there. So now I'm getting background color transparent. Another thing you'll notice is that I'm not actually getting this junk attribute. So that shortcode ats is a way that you can actually say these are the only attributes that should exist along with their default values. So if you look at that function in WordPress core, it gives you more information about that. Combines the user provided ones with the ones that you're allowing to be defined, basically.
So I have a question. I am a Drupal developer. So this is my first foray into a lot of WordPress stuff. And I'm curious, realistically, how is this used across most sites? Are people dropping in shortcodes and stuff like that for a specific page, and that's just how they're building things? What is like the real life use case? Are they putting a gallery and then they're creating an insert thing here, creating a function? Like this is how they're doing all of it? I assume not, but I'm just curious how it's moved.
Yeah, so and other people are free to weigh in because I'm not the only one who's done this, use shortcodes a lot. But my experience is usually you're not building pages with shortcodes. You're just saying this plugin that I'm using has a special functionality it provides, and it wants to insert something on a page like a gallery or a form. And the way that I harness that plugin to do its thing is to just put a shortcode in the middle of a page or a post to pull in that form or pull in that gallery. There are things like some page builders operate from shortcodes underneath, like a lot of the page builders, and I won't say any specific ones because they have changed probably since last I've looked, but there are big third-party plugins or themes that do operate with shortcodes as the basis of everything they do. But in general, I just think of it as I'm in the middle of typing some copy, and in the middle of that copy, I need to access some functionality. So I can't hard-code it into the theme because it's in the middle of the post content. Therefore, I need like a placeholder in the middle of my content for the functionality to plug the whole of that placeholder. That's how I think. Yeah, so I think we can think of this purple paragraph as purple represents something that might need to be dynamic.
So it's like doing a gallery. Doing a gallery is a great use case for shortcode because it does all the functionality where you can click on a picture, you click on an image and it gets bigger and stuff. Like a user's not typically going to just spend the time to do that. So you'd be like, hey, if you want this cool looking thing or a slider, carousel, whatever, you just use the shortcode instead.
Yeah. Another thing we can talk about real quick is some shortcodes work like this. They have closing tags and you actually have y'all worked with this before? It's been a while for me, but
yeah,
you put like shortcode content instead of passing it as a attribute, just pass the content this way. And I guess this is what you're supposed to do if it's like too long to be inserted as an attribute or something. I'm not sure the exact use case, but
or complex, yeah, long or complex, or Sorry, go ahead.
We're not handling that right now, but that actually gets passed in as your second parameter to your callback. We might say something like content equals, let's just escape HTML to be safe. And I think that we might need to say, just by default, this is an empty string or something like that. If we want to use this, let's see what happens here. If we just put the content in place there. Yeah, so that is not something I use a lot, but it is definitely something you might come across in the wild when working with shortcodes.
Yeah, it could be a similar use case where if you're a front-end dev and you need to do a piece of layout that has content in it, if you wanted to make a fancy something around something and then put the content in the middle of it, you could open and close the shortcode like that. I don't know, but it's, if you want to make the background color, and it's more than just one little quick thing. If you want to give the user, if you want to say, hey, if you want to have a cool rounded corners, little call out inset box with the text being different and everything, like instead of doing that whole thing in WordPress every time with the editor, you can just wrap whatever you want to put inside that box in the shortcode and it will make it look like that.
Yep.
Yeah. And from the perspective of Drupal, since we talk about both, I would say like what looks obvious is that this sort of is like tokens. In Drupal, you've got the concept of tokens, but this is way more powerful than tokens. And also it has functionalities that tokens doesn't. For example, the wrapping of content, the being able to have an opening and closing tag and arbitrary stuff in between. So as you go further back in time, shortcodes are more and more used in WordPress. And if you go back far enough in time, then it starts to make a lot more sense. So embedding complex media like a video, right? Like you would never expect your site editor to be able to write a video HTML tag or whatever was there before HTML5, like an object tag or whatever. So you would just give them a little video shortcode and you'd say point to an ID in the media library, and then you'd do it for them. So nowadays, I'm sure Gutenberg has a video block, and it probably does the same thing. It's just like behind the block mechanism instead of the shortcode mechanism. But yeah, I think if you think further and further back and less technical in the form of the site editor, the more shortcodes start to make sense.
So in my head, I'm trying to obviously compare everything to Drupal and like, what is that counterpart? And I was like, seems pre-processing, and then definitely not if it's just passing strings. Then I was like, okay, tokens. And the only time I've really used tokens is like in a view when I'm trying to like change the output slightly or something like that. Or, okay, it seems like this is just like adding blocks. Is this just like paragraphs? And it's really a little bit of some of these different things.
There's not a good one-to-one within Drupal. And it's one of the things where like it's when I'm in Drupal, sometimes I wish this was in my toolbox. Like I wish I could just make a shortcode, and I end up making like a token that's like good enough, but then you have to, I won't go too far. This is as far down the rabbit hole as get. Then you'll have to tell Drupal that it needs to process tokens in the node because it won't do that by default. So like I see this as one of the like huge developer tools in WordPress that Drupal just never really had, still doesn't have, but it's a wonderful tool.
Yeah,
I think it's helpful. I think it's helpful to draw those lines between WordPress and Drupal. I come from WordPress a lot. I have a lot more experience with WordPress and Drupal. Just started learning Drupal over the past couple of years, and it's been really helpful to draw those one-to-one comparisons. And it's just because the systems have their similarities, definitely. So it's like modules are plugins. And that was the one that I learned. Tokens were shortcodes to me in my brain.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Michael. And I guess so next time we talk about shortcodes, maybe we'll look at practical examples like Brittany was talking about, and maybe look at some more advanced stuff. That was great. Thank you very much. And
Absolutely.
I think on that note, we are done. Now,
Play the song. Play the song.
play the song. All right. Hold on. This is good content.
Composed by Michael Hull, by the way. Hope you don't mind me blowing.
Yeah.